Hello, our favorite humans. Welcome to Bronx Tales with your host, Bronx UV, and me. I'm Logan. Thank you for being here. First, I want to just thank every single one of you who joined our live last night, and as well as the people who watched it on replay. We wouldn't be here without you, and we just want to thank you so much for all the support you guys give. This is an amazing community with amazing people. You guys have excellent ideas and thought processes and able to think outside the box, and we just really appreciate the support that everybody gives us. Especially a huge shout out to Bianca for modding for us last night on our very first live. Thank you guys. We really, really appreciate you. First, I want to address guilters saying that prison or jail is like adult daycare. I also heard this from Steve G. And the first thing I think of is, listen, if anybody says that, you've never been to jail before. Jail is designed as a punishment, obviously, and that's exactly what it is. Jail is nothing like daycare. Jail is nothing like adult daycare. That is the most absurd thing. You have never been to jail if you're saying that jail is like a daycare, because that place is awful and I don't wish it on my worst enemy, but that is what it's designed to do. I wish they would stop saying that. It drives me nuts. I think back to my short stint of couple days in jail, and it was horrendous. That place was awful. Jail, you are literally sleeping with bugs and mice and rats. You don't know what people are doing to your food. You don't even want to eat the food. It's horrendous. It's an awful place to be. The lights never shut off. Imagine trying to sleep with lights that never shut off. It's people screaming all through the night. It is cold. It's disgustingly dirty and unsanitary. Every time I went to jail for driving, I got sick. It's awful in there. No, jail is nothing like daycare or adult daycare. And the only people that say that are the people who have never been there. And be very thankful that you have never been accused of anything ever, that you don't even know what it's like. That's awful. I am not going to go into the Prime docuseries. I think most people that wanted to watch it have watched it. And there's so many other great channels that are reviewing the episodes on their channels live or reviewing them, just making videos on reviewing them. And I'm going to leave that to them. I'm not going to review it over here, but I do want to touch on just a couple of things from it. In one episode, one of Dylan's friends states that Dylan told her when Dylan opened the door for the third time and then saw the perpetrator walking through the kitchen out the back, the third time she opened the door, the friend states that Dylan said she shut the door like boom, like slammed the door. So in all the instances that the perpetrator knew Dylan was there because she yelled up the stairs and told them to be quiet or to shut up, how many times did she open and close her door? Her phone is going off. I don't know if it's on silent or not, but her phone is going off. She's in her room getting up and down, and then the third time she slams the door, and you're trying to tell me that he didn't know she was there? Absolutely knew she was there. So I feel like whoever it was left her for a reason, or she knew who it was. And then another part of the Prime video I just want to touch on real quick is the fact that Hunter Johnson and Emily are speaking, and they say that in the middle of the night of the 13th, they had a strange feeling and got up and locked the door. Well, previous to this, just a week prior, Xana also had her dad come and change the locks on her door. And it makes me think what was going on in this area or with this group of people, even the frats included, to make people feel unsafe. These people simultaneously felt unsafe. And I think they know a reason why they felt unsafe. And it's not a lone perpetrator because this crime hadn't happened yet. Why are these people who never lock the doors getting up and locking their doors for no reason because they get a feeling? No, I feel like something was going on and that's why they felt unsafe. We just don't know what that is yet. Also, in the Prime docuseries, an officer speaks on how clean Brian Koberger's apartment was. And if you remember, his car was clean as well. We know he has OCD. I'm not sure why they're making it seem like it's so crazy that somebody wants their stuff to be clean, their apartment to be clean, their car to be clean. We know he has OCD. That's not shocking anymore. But what is strange to me is the officer said it looked like nobody lived there, which is odd. We know that he had a TV there. We know he had stuff there. The fact that he didn't have many clothes there or a shower curtain, I guess, is maybe what they're referring to. But what I find strange about this is for it to be that clean that they have to comment on it. So you're trying to tell me then Brian Koberger's place is so immaculate that it looks like nobody lives there, but he has one receipt to a Dickies outfit? Stop it. That just sounds super planted to me. I'm not saying it is planted. I'm just saying it sounds off that he's going to be that clean, but he's going to have a random Walmart receipt with a Dickies outfit on there that could connect him to a crime. Stop it. And then the last thing I want to touch on for the Prime docuseries is the fact that there, to this day, is still a gag order. Could you imagine had there actually been a trial? There is more stuff in the Prime docuseries being leaked. There's information, there's people talking about things that they shouldn't be talking about. That would technically be a leak of information. Again, this is so bizarre to me that these people are allowed to literally break the law and leak information when there is a whole gag order still is beyond me. I don't know why nobody is being looked at for this or getting in trouble for this. They're setting a precedence that you can leak information. Who freaking cares? Nothing's going to happen. And that is not okay. I want to take a look at this interview that Brian Enton did with Josh Ritter from the channel Courtroom Confidential. His channel will be linked below just because I want to play this interview for you guys. I find some of the things that he says pretty interesting.
You mentioned something, though, that, and this is a question I keep getting asked again and again. For how long were prosecutors discussing this with the family members? Because it almost appears as though they were blindsided by the whole thing. Do you have any insights into that? Like, was this a discussion that took place over days or a discussion that took place over weeks?
From what I know, it was days, and the first time it was brought up, again, this is just from what I know, it would be on the Friday before. Wow. So, yeah, I think they were pretty blindsided by it. I don't think they were expecting a plea at all. And then, you know, they also were trying to, they wanted more input. I mean, they wanted other things in the plea that didn't end up making it in. They wanted a confession. They wanted him to have to say where the murder weapon was. They wanted a specific line that he's not allowed to ever write a book, or do anything like that. So there were things that they wanted that.
And when you say they, you mean the family?
Yeah,
sorry to interrupt. Wow.
Yeah, some of the families, yeah.
And those are all the things that I think are most bothersome to people reacting to this is, why don't we know more? Why didn't we have more of a confession? Why is the prosecutor getting up in court and explaining what took place and still saying they haven't located a murder weapon? You're right. These are all things that I would have demanded as well, or expected that the prosecution would have gone about asking. Was there any indication as to why now? This case is nearly 3 years old. We've gone through plenty of litigation about it. Was there any reason as to why this weekend, all of a sudden, does plea negotiation heat up and an offer is made to Brian's team?
So I don't know for sure the answer to that. Some reasons that I have thought about would be, you know, Ann Taylor asked for the delay, Koberger's attorney, and that was rejected. Asked to bring in the alternate perpetrators, that was rejected the week before. So I don't know if she was just sort of out of runway and tried everything, and when those last two decisions came in, maybe she decided to approach I think it may have gone through the judge, like the initial discussions, and said, look, like, is there an offer? Is there something? In terms of the prosecution, I have a document, which I've never, and you ask about how I confirm these things. I mean, like, I of course want to be first as a reporter, but since I covered this from the beginning and I want to be a trusted source, like, I don't just I'd rather get beat than take any chance of being wrong ever, especially with something as important to me as this case. So I made sure also to get like documents all along the way. In terms, I mean, I was able to get some of the emails and stuff, which I've never, published, but I have those things. So, it's not like I was just getting a phone call and going with it based on that. But anyway, in one of the emails, the prosecution listed out the reasons that they wanted to do the plea now. And among them were, that it was risky going to trial, even though they were confident in the evidence, that, there could always be a mistrial or you never really know what's going to happen, that he could be on death row for 30 or 40 years, which there are other people in Idaho on death row for 30 and 40 years, and that the families would never get any kind of closure. And that if they didn't take a plea, he may never have to fully admit guilt, even if he was found guilty, they thought there was some value in him admitting what he did. And so those were a few of the reasons he gave. My personal opinion, and again, from covering it from the beginning, like, I've just felt like Idaho wanted to get rid of this from the beginning. Like, I don't think they wanted a trial. Yeah, I don't think the judge wanted a trial. He's just seemed annoyed the whole time, this new judge, Judge Hippler. They were annoyed about the media being there. They were annoyed about the parking. It's going to be so disruptive to other business. They've kind of been complaining about it all along. The prosecutor just never felt to me to be that. He's a good guy, but I never felt like he was that passionate about, taking this all the way. Even when they tore down the house, the university got ownership of the house. I don't know if you remember back in the day.
Yeah.
Tore it down. Like, they just wanted to wipe it clean, and they got annoyed with people talking about the case in Moscow. And I've just always felt like from the beginning they didn't want to deal with this. They just wanted to be done with it.
Wow. That's actually even more disappointing to know if that did play a role. And I know you're just kind of giving your gut reaction, but that would be disappointing on top of everything else. You had mentioned that there was some emails exchanged Sunday, but the letter that we've now heard about or seen that is like the official kind of letter to the families was dated on Monday, correct?
Yeah, so the letter to Kohberger offering him the plea deal with the specific conditions of what the offer was went out on Sunday night.
So if you notice, Brian Enton is speaking the entire time about the prosecution going to the defense for the plea hearing, for the plea deal, for the plea bargain, not the other way around. And Brian Enton has been very close to this case since, I think, a week into it. He has gotten, backdoor information, and he has been really close to this case to be able to speak on it. So the fact that he keeps saying that the prosecution went to the defense for the plea hearing, plea deal, I think that's what happened. I don't think the defense went to the prosecution, as most guilters seem to think how that happened. It's not how it happened. Prosecution went to the defense for the plea deal. He also says that he saw an email from the prosecution on the reasons why they wanted to do a plea deal. They were afraid of a mistrial. They said it was risky going to trial. They said that they were afraid that Brian Kohberger would sit on death row for 30 to 40 years. Okay, and the plea doesn't change that. Now he's just going to be sitting in prison for longer. I don't understand how that's on the list or what that would do for them. They said that it would give the families closure. Isn't that funny? I think that makes it pretty clear that they didn't discuss this with the families, and that the prosecution found value in having Brian Kohberger admit to guilt. Well, if somebody's admitting to guilt on something they didn't do, I don't think that's very valuable. Brian Enton also talks on how it was very clear from the very beginning that every single player in this case, other than the families, wanted this trial to never happen. They wanted nothing to do with this case, from demolishing the house to a plea bargain to anything in between. They did not want anything to do with this case. And I think that was very clear. I mean, the judge even complained about parking for the trial. Are you kidding me? He's worried about parking? and not somebody's rights being violated or for victims and their families. What a terrible thing to say. Brian Enton even thinks that that's part of the reason they tore down the house, was they just wanted to get away from this case and away from this trial as fast as they could. Brian Enton also says that he felt like the prosecution is the only party that wanted to keep the gag order in place. The judge didn't really seem to care. The defense didn't really seem to care, but the prosecution did. Why? So they can redact stuff, so they can remove stuff. This case, start to finish, is just unbelievable. The Gonsalves family, or mainly Steve, said he was upset that there was a plea, mainly for the fact that it's Brian Koberger getting control once again. And to that I say, Brian Koberger didn't get the control. Brian Koberger didn't ask for the control. The prosecution gave it to him. The prosecution is the one who went to the defense with the plea deal and gave the control over to him. He cannot blame Brian Koberger for that. Brian Koberger didn't ask for that. The prosecution did. So Steve G needs to continue to be mad at the prosecution for giving away this control, apparently, that somebody has, and apparently giving it to Brian Koberger, who didn't ask for it. There's been people recently that have been talking about the plane ticket for Michael Koberger and when he placed his plane ticket, because there was an interview briefly of Steve G outside of the courthouse, and he said, "We know when you placed your plane ticket. We know when you bought your plane ticket." People are confused whether it's the plane ticket to come for the plea hearing or the plane ticket back in December of 2022 to take the ride back to Pennsylvania. Some people think it's for him to come take the ride with Brian back to Pennsylvania. Now, people have looked into this, and there's even been some paperwork going around that shows, apparently, allegedly, when Brian Koberger's dad got his plane ticket, and it was really close to the day or on the day that he needed to leave, and they find that weird. And just from personal experience, this is just my opinion, I buy plane tickets the same day or the day before. A lot of times they're cheaper because they're just trying to fill up a plane and they're going to lower the prices on tickets. And a lot of times I find tickets really cheap because it's the day of or the day before or a couple days before. I personally don't find that strange at all. I could see how somebody might, but I personally just don't. That I've done that many, many times. And the thing I want to end on today is there were many people that referred to this as a party house. We know off the top of our head tens and tens of hundreds of people that would go to the parties over here, and it was known for that. Don't you think in a case like this, there should have been at least 100, if not better, fingerprints to check, DNA samples to check? Why do we only have a handful or less of any DNA evidence? There should have been hundreds of samples and hundreds of fingerprints to go through. How convenient. I find that very, very convenient. There should have been so many DNA samples to check from a party house. It's known as a party house. And you have a handful, if even that, of pieces of evidence to check for DNA. I don't even think fingerprints were checked. Fingerprints and DNA should have been everywhere in that house, and it should have been retrieved by the police department, and it should have been tested. None of it was tested, and I find that very, very strange. It is not a coincidence that one thing, one removable item, the knife sheath, was one of the very few things tested, and you find less than a secondary transfer amount of Brian Koberger's DNA on it. How convenient. Anyways, that's what we have for you today. We just wanted to say thank you for joining our live or watching on replay and being here to support us. We appreciate everybody. Oh, also, before I leave you, the book that James Patterson put out should be arriving to me tomorrow, so I will have that and we can go live and determine how we want to do this book reading, what's more comfortable for you guys. If we want to read a couple chapters and then discuss it or whatever, we can figure it out when we go live. Anyways, do something nice for yourself today. Be kind, but more importantly, be kind to your dog. Bye, guys.